Okay, so with this one, we're going to do domain is x values, range is y values, so you have to shift your eyes. So with domain, we're only talking where is this function going from left to right. So on the x-axis, how far left, on the x-axis, how far right. So looking at this here on the left, it looks like my function is going to negative. We're talking on the x-axis, guys. This is my x-axis. It's going as far back as -5. Now notice it's not included because it's an open circle, so that's why I put a parenthesis here. And then from left to right, I'm looking, and my function goes to, on the right, the value +6. And then I bracket because it included it because it's a closed circle. And then now we're talking range. So we're talking how far up and down. So shift your eyes. Now it doesn't matter how far left and right. We're talking up and down for range. So how far down to up is my function. So looking from down to up on the y-axis, it looks like my function starts at +1 on the y-axis. Remember, guys, this is my y-axis. So it starts at +1 on the y-axis, and it grows up to +3 on the y-axis. Okay. So then, does it include +1? We'll look at +1. It's an open circle, so it's a parenthesis, and then at 3 on the y-axis on our range, up and down, it's a closed circle, so it's a bracket. All right. So what we're going to do is learn angles and their attributes today. So today we're going to be talking about complementary angles, supplementary angles, and we'll start there and then continue onward. So complementary angles, guys, it just simply means it adds up to be 90 degrees. So if they add up to be 90 degrees, they're definitely complementary. So look at these two angles that are split apart. They're complementary because if you were to add up 40 degrees plus 50 degrees, we'd get 90 degrees. Also, this right here is also an example. This right here is also an example of complementary angles. It's a complementary angle because it's 90 degrees. Now understand that little box in the corner is the only time we can assume we have a 90-degree angle. So if you have that box, then you know it's for sure 90 degrees. Okay, so look over here at this one. We see that we have a 90-degree angle because of that box. That little box in the corner means 90 degrees. So those are complementary angles. So that angle plus that angle would equal 90 degrees. So for example, let's say I said this was 40 degrees, then this must be 50 degrees because complementary angles add up to be 90 degrees. We know this one's for sure 90 degrees because of that square, so those are complementary angles. Supplementary angles, guys, are also straight angles for the most part, not all the time, but supplementary angles and straight angles go hand in hand. Straight angles add up to be 180 degrees, and supplementary angles also add up to be 180 degrees. So looking right here at this example, notice from here all the way around is a half circle, and it would add up to be 180 degrees. So from one side to the other is 180 degrees. A straight line makes 180 degrees. Right here, these are supplementary angles because if you were to sum them up, 60 degrees plus 120 is 180 degrees. Definitely supplementary then. Also looking at this right here, here's another straight line angles because the straight line adds up to be 180 degrees. These are supplementary angles, and we see that we have 20 degrees and 160 degrees split up here. This one's 20, this one's 160, so those are definitely supplementary angles. They add up to be 180 degrees. Vertical angles are exactly opposite of each other. So if you have vertical angles, they're exactly opposite of each other, and you know that they will be equal. Once again, vertical angles are exactly opposite of each other, and they will be equal. So look right here at my blue angles on this green dotted line here, this cross. We have this line crossing another line, and it creates two vertical angles, essentially. So look at my blue angles. Those are exactly opposite of each other, so they are going to be vertical angles, and thus they'll be equal. Also look at the red part here. Those are vertical angles as well because they're exactly opposite of each other. They will be equal as well. So looking at my diagram over here, I have the 20 degrees. So these are vertical angles exactly opposite of each other, so they must be equal. Another pair of vertical angles right there and right there, so they must be equal. Now notice also we have a half circle right there, so those together better add up to be 180. And they do, we're good, because 20 degrees plus 60 degrees is 180. Okay, now moving on to equal angles. Equal angles will be given to you, it'll say in the words, these are equal angles, or in the picture. But you can't just assume, you have to be given equal angles are equal. So for example, looking at this diagram right here, notice I have these two angles. I have this angle and this angle. Now notice the reason we can assume that they're equal is from the picture is only because we have that straight red line on this angle right here. And we also have that straight red line on this angle right here. So we can assume, since it tells us in the picture that they're equal, Now, any other time we can't assume they're equal. Even if they look equal, you can't assume. But we were told that they were equal in this one. Now, looking over here at this example, notice I have this straight line, yes, and so the whole thing is going to add up to be 180 degrees. Now, in this particular example, we were given that this is 90 degrees. Well, if this is 90 degrees, then this must also be 90 degrees, but we can never assume that unless we're given that. So these ones are equal because they happen to be exactly 90-degree angles, and it makes sense since the whole thing better add up to be 180. Now, once again, if you're ever given a picture just like this, you can't just say, okay, it looks to me like that's 90 degrees, so I'm going to assume that this is 90 degrees and this is 90 degrees. You can't assume anything in this course, guys. You've got to know by the math of what you're saying is true. So we can't assume anything. Now, we could assume it was 90 degrees if we were given that it was 90 degrees, but there's two differences there. So we'll never assume anything unless we're given it. Let's apply the math now. So now we're going to use those things that we just learned, supplementary, complementary angles, vertical angles, and equal angles to solve missing parts of pictures. So looking at this one, we're asked to find question mark. Well, first of all, notice, we're using complementary angles in this one. Complementary angles add up to be 90 degrees. Now, we know these are complementary angles because that was given that it was 90 degrees right there. So we know the whole thing adds up to be 90. Okay, so then if this piece right here is 30 degrees, well, then to find question mark, we'll take our total amount, 90 degrees, and we'll subtract what we were given, the 30 degrees, and that's going to equal 60 degrees. So we know question mark must be 60 degrees, which it makes sense, guys. If you add up 60 plus 30, that's equal to 90, which we knew it was definitely 90 due to that right little square there. Or, yeah. Okay, next example. Given angle DAC is equal to 20 degrees, find angle CAB. So once again, given angle DAC is equal to 20 degrees, find angle CAB. It's wordier than what we were just given, but it's actually kind of asking the same thing. So let's look at it. Given angle DAC, to remember to read an angle, you'll read it D, then go to A, then to C, and you'll know what angle you're looking at. So DAC, if I trace it in that order, it's going to be that angle. We know it's 20 degrees. Now, once again, it says find angle CAB, so starting C, then to A to B, it's going to be that angle that we're trying to find. Well, once again, because we're given in the picture that this is 90 degrees, we know the whole thing should add up to be 90 degrees. So if we take off 90 degrees and then subtract our 20 degrees that we have, that will give us what we are looking for here. And so that's 70 degrees. So we know question mark or angle CAB is equal to 70 degrees for sure. Now, once again, it will make sense. Your answer will make sense. If you add those up, it will be 90 degrees, and it does. 70 plus 20 is 90. Okay, different one. Find question mark. This is a different angle relationship, guys. Now, notice we have a straight line. Anytime I see a straight line, I like to use that one, that angle relationship, because we know that halfway around a circle, a straight line is equal to 180 degrees. So total is 180 degrees. So if we know that the straight line is 180 degrees, and we know that this piece is 35, you'll take your 180 degrees, subtract what you're given, the 35 degrees, and if you do that, you're going to get 145 degrees. So we know that this piece right here, the question mark, must be 145 degrees. And once again, you could check it. Does that make sense? 145 plus 35 does equal 180, so we found this perfectly. All right, next one. Given angle CDB is equal to 135 degrees, what is angle what is angle ADB? So angle CDB is C, then to D, then to B. That's going to be that angle. We were given it's 135 degrees. So if that's 135 degrees, what's angle ADB? So we're looking for this angle, question mark. Now we have to set up a true statement. I'm not going to draw that the same as that. Those are different, okay? Now a true statement. Well, first thing I see is I have a straight line. We know that should sum up to be 180 degrees. So if you take 180 degrees and you subtract off what you're given, 135 degrees, that'll tell you what's left and what would equal that other angle that's missing. So that's going to be 45 degrees. So question mark is 45. Once again, you could check your answer because 45 plus 135 better equal 180 since it was halfway around the circle, and it does. So we got the correct answer here, 45 degrees. Okay, looking at this one, we're going to find question mark. Now, looking at this one, I have a line crossed with another line. So this is creating vertical angles. These two are vertical angles. We know vertical angles are exactly opposite of each other and that they're equal. So question mark must be 30 degrees. Okay, now also let's say I added on to this and said, okay, now that you found that angle, I want you to find this angle. Now, once again, notice guys, we have a half a circle right here. So that must have to total up to be 180 degrees. So to find question mark, that's just like the one we just did. You'll take your 180 and subtract 30. So we'll get 150. Okay, so we knew that question mark was 150. Okay, well, if that's 150, then what's this? If this is 150, then what's this? Well, guys, these are vertical angles. They're exactly opposite of each other, so they must be equal. So this is also 150 degrees. Now, I could check it by adding up all the whole thing, and that would be a full circle, which would add up to be 360. There's a couple different ways you could check it. We also have a half circle right there. That better add up to be 180. And then we've checked our vertical angles, so we know we've done this correctly. All right, fill in the entire diagram, another one just like what we saw here. So if this is 20 degrees right here, then its vertical angle is opposite, and that must be equal. So this is also 20 degrees. Now let's keep going and filling this in. Now for this next part, guys, we've got to fill in this piece right here, but we need to use some sort of angle relationship. Now once again, guys, look with your eyes. Halfway around the circle is 180. So if you think about it, we can take 180, that full amount, and subtract our 20 degrees that we were given, and that's equal to 160 degrees. Well, if this is 160 degrees right here, then that's vertical angle will also be equal to 160 degrees, so that's 160 degrees right there. We filled in the entire diagram. All right, do problems 1 through 3 on the worksheet. Okay, now we're going to be applying that knowledge further into a more advanced problems. We're going to be solving for x, and we're going to be dealing with angles, using these angle relationships that we just learned and understand. We're going to be using these to solve for x. We're going to be solving for a variable. So we're going to be having a bunch of unknowns in a problem, and we have to solve for x. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at what you're given. Look at the picture, set up a true statement. So look at the picture and say, what am I given here? Am I given complementary angles? Am I given supplementary straight angles? Am I given vertical angles? Or am I given equal angles? So once you know, then you can easily set up a true statement. And once you set up a true statement, guys, then you can piece by piece solve for x. So let's do our first example. Looking at this one, guys, it says solve for x and find the actual angles. So notice I have 25 degrees and x plus 2. Well, guys, what angle relationship will we use? Well, we were given that this is 90 degrees. So these are complementary angles. So it would be a true statement to say this. 25 degrees, that angle, plus x plus 2 would be equal to, so that angle plus that angle better equal 90 degrees, right? That's a 90 degree angle, we know for sure. That's a true statement. This angle plus this angle is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, now all you have to do is solve for x. Guys, but this looks really hideous right now, so let's combine like terms on the left and let's simplify this better. 25 plus 2, those are our like terms, that's 27. So we have 27 plus x is equal to 90 degrees. I'm just going to write 90. I'll put degrees back in the answer when I'm finished. Now, from here, don't forget your goal. A lot of people get stuck. They say, well, now what? Well, guys, we're trying to remember the goal. We're trying to solve for x. So we have to get x alone piece by piece, and you have to get it alone by using the correct operation. So we have minus 27 from both sides. Now check your work to make sure you perform the correct operation. Positive 27 minus 27 adds up to be 0. So we did that correctly. We got rid of it correctly. So on the left side is x, and that's equal to 90 minus 27, which is equal to 63 degrees. So that's x. That's not our angle. That's our x. So we solve for x. That's not the answer to our angle, but that is part of our answer. So we know x is equal to 63 degrees. Okay, so if x is equal to 63 degrees, then we can go back and plug that in to our angle to figure out the exact angle. So we have x plus 2 right here. We want to know the actual angle, so let's plug in 63. So because x is equal to 63, that's what we solved for. So 63 plus 2 is 65. So this angle we had to solve for because we didn't know it before. It's 65 degrees. So then check it. Does 65 plus 25 equal 90? Yes, it does. So we've done this correctly. Okay, solving for x, then find all the angles. It says solve for x and then find all the angles. Now, once again, you have to choose a correct statement. Use a correct statement and then solve for x. So if you use an incorrect statement, your answer won't be right. So looking at this, guys, what angle relationship am I given? Well, first of all, I see that I have a straight line, so we know that the sum of this angle plus this angle would equal 180 degrees. So just write that down. Write down the true statement. X plus 5, that first angle plus the second angle, which is x minus 3, will equal 180 degrees. A half a circle is equal to 180 degrees. So then, guys, on the left, a lot of people get scared by this because you're right, it doesn't look very good right here. But let's combine like terms. X plus x is 2x's. And then we have positive 5 minus 3. We're combining our numbers. And I'm going to cross those out so we don't miss anything. 5 minus 3, guys, is positive 2. So I combined those, and that's equal to 180. So I just simplified the left a little bit. Now, people get stuck here. But, guys, keep a goal in mind. What are we trying to do? We're trying to solve for x piece by piece. So I subtract 2 from both sides. We've got to perform the correct operations, though. So 2x is equal to, now on the right, now once again, those added up to be 0, sorry. 180 minus 2 is 178. Divide both sides by 2 to get x completely alone, and we get x is equal to 89. Now that's x. X is equal to 89 degrees. We solved for x, but we got to keep going with that. So let's go back up and plug that back in. So if x is equal to 89, then we know this angle is 89 plus 5, which is 94 degrees. So we just solved for that angle. And then we could do this a couple different ways. I'm just going to go ahead, since I solved for x, which was 89, plug it in. So we have 89 minus 3, because we solved for x, and then we get 86 degrees. All right, guys, let's set up a true statement and solve for x on this one. So looking at this one, you have to decide what true statement can I use. Now, you have to go off of what you're given. You can't just make up something magical. You have to go off of what you're given. So look at this one, guys. We have two lines crossing each other, so we have these vertical angles here. So we know that vertical angles are exactly opposite of each other, and they will be equal. So a true statement in this one would be to say 2x is equal to 3x minus 5. Now, I have people say, well, Miss Christensen, 2x isn't equal to 3x minus 5. 2x is equal to 2x, or 3x minus 5 is equal to 3x minus 5. But, guys, this x makes it kind of like up in the air. Well, they're definitely equal. They're vertical angles. Look at the picture. So set up a true statement and solve for x. Now, once again, they are equal. We can tell from our picture they're definitely equal. And, guys, when we go through and solve for x, that's finding the x value that will make them equal. So, once again, let's solve for x piece by piece. Now, once again, look at this, guys. On the left, we have 2x, and on the right, we have 3x minus 5. We have a bunch of x's. You can't magically float those x's together. You have to perform the correct operation to get from one side of the equation to the other. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So on the left here, 2x minus 3x is negative 1x, or negative x, same thing. So I added those up, and then 3x minus 3x is 0. That's why I chose to do subtract 3x, because that adds up to be 0, leaving me with negative 5 on the right. Now, piece by piece, we have to get x completely alone. It's not alone. It has that negative attached. In fact, it really has a negative 1 attached. So let's divide both sides by negative 1. So then it goes away, and we get x is equal to negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5. So we can go back up here. We can plug that in to find the actual angle. So 2 times x is 5, so 2 times 5 is 10. Well, if that's 10 degrees, then its vertical angle is also 10 degrees. Now you could check to make sure you did it right. If you plug in a 5 here, we'll have 3 times 5, which is 15, minus 5, which is 10. Okay, let's just fill in all the angles. Well, we're supposed to. We were asked to fill in all the angles. So now looking at this, we know that this is up here is 10 degrees. We know that halfway around a circle is 180 degrees. So if we know that that should be 180 degrees, then they'll take 180 degrees minus 10 degrees, and that'll give you what's left, which is 170 degrees. Well, that's a vertical angle to that. So if that's 170 degrees, so is its vertical angle, which is also 170 degrees. We filled in the entire diagram on that one now. Oops. Last one. Find angle A. Oh, this one I got to fix. Find angle BAC. So, guys, what you need to understand angle BAC is on a test or on an ACT or on an end of level, they're not going to probably say solve for X. They're going to want to know that you have to solve for X. So looking at this one, guys, angle BAC, if you trace along those lines, you know that that's 20x. If you wrote the answer, okay, angle BAC is 20x. Okay, yeah, you're right, but that's not the angle. I mean, it is the angle, but we need to find X. So we have to be able to solve for X first. Well, the only way of solving for x, it looks like, is to use this picture and go through and solve for x piece by piece. So we got to set up a true statement here. I'm going to erase that. We got to set up a true statement here. So looking at this, notice from the picture, we were given, well, first of all, we can't assume these are 90 degrees. It doesn't have a right. It doesn't have a little box there. These aren't 90 degrees. Now notice this isn't a straight line. These are angles made from a straight line, so we don't know that they add up to be 180. These are not vertical angles. They're not exactly opposite of each other. But notice from the picture, we have this red slash on this angle, and we have the red slash on this angle. So we know that they're equal. So it would be a true statement on this one to say that 20x is equal to 30x minus 20. Now, piece by piece, let's solve for x. Now, notice I have an x on the left, I have an x on the right. I've got to combine them, but I can't float them together. I've got to use algebra to get from one side of the equation to the other. So I'm going to subtract 30x from both sides. Now, on the left here, 20x minus 30x is negative 10x's, which is equal to, now look, guys, 30x minus 30x is 0 x's. It added up to be 0. That's what we wanted. We wanted it to go away. So that leaves me with negative 20 on the right. Divide both sides by negative 10 to get x alone. So then that divides out, and we get x is equal to negative 20 divided by negative 10 is positive 2. We solved for x, it's positive 2, but that wasn't what we were asked to do, so don't stop there. On the ACT, if you stop there, on the end of level, if you stop there, you would get it incorrect. You were asked to find angle BAC, which is this angle. So we have 20x, well, we know that x is 2, so let's plug in, so 20 times, instead of x, we're plugging in 2 for x, because that's what we found x to be. 20 times 2 is equal to 40 degrees. Now I'm going to ask you, we're done, but I'm going to ask you, if that's 40 degrees, then what is this? Well, they're equal angles, guys. Look, the picture told us they were equal by those red slashes, or those slashes. So this is 40 degrees as well. Now be cautious, because if in the picture, okay, so we're done, but in the picture, if you would have had a red slash and then 2 red slashes right there, that's saying that the angles are different, so we couldn't have used that statement to set up a true statement to solve for x. So just be careful. You got to stay true to your picture and solve for x in the correct way. Okay, so once again, you can set up a true statement by using supplementary 180 degrees, complementary, which is 90 degrees, or vertical angles, which says that they're equal. Or if you know that they're equal by the picture, such as this example, then you can definitely set them equal. So set up a true statement and solve for x. Okay. All right, guys, finish the worksheet and make sure you do all of it.